Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we'll share with you some tips on how to hide some of those ugly electrical or plumbing lines that might be running down the outside of your house. It's a lot easier than you might think. Also, how would you like to utilize that area you have under your wood deck and use that for additional storage? Everybody can use some additional storage. We'll give you some ideas there. Also, we have a homeowner that created this fantastic looking homemade fire table, but they've got a few problems. We're going to try to help them solve on that particular one. Also, revitalizing a cast iron sink. The process is pretty much the same for any fixture that you may have that's cast iron, and we'll give some tips on that as well. Joe, what are you going to share with us on a simple solution?
All right. Are you planting in clay pots this spring? A lot of people are. Well, I've got a couple of simple solutions. It's 2-in-1 for how to make sure you retain moisture in that pot to make sure those plants stay happy and healthy.
All right, I know people have had some problems with that. Well, we've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Right now, we're going to head right around the corner from you, Joe, in Connecticut, and we've got Don on the line. Don, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Greetings from Connecticut.
Oh, good.
Greetings to you from Connecticut. Where in Connecticut are you, Don?
I live in Hartford County.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Litchfield County.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
Right now it is, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Don, explain this situation to us because when, a lot of times when I see people putting in, air conditioning systems, you'll see those lines running right down the wall or electrical lines, and I always cringe a little bit, and it sounds like you're cringing a bit.
Well, it's funny because I was watching one of your shows about spring cleanup, and I said, that's a good idea. So I went through it, and I do my rounds around the house on things that are noticeably that I have to fix or repair. Mm-hmm. And that all of a sudden became a drastic, it was an eyesore before, but then when, it started to really deteriorate, and I said to myself, geez, I wish there was a way I can kind of fix it up and make it look nice. And because I know they have the little protectant around the pipes, the pipe there.
Yeah, the insulation, right?
Going up on top, and it was really, it's brittle, it's falling apart. And I said to myself, man, I wish there was something that I can do to, fix it up and clean it up so it doesn't look bad. And essentially, you motivated me to go to try to find, okay, let me see if I can find something. But unfortunately, when I was looking for things, a lot of times it was for shorter units, maybe like 4 feet or 5 feet high. Mm-hmm. I really didn't see anything for a 2-story house where the central one of the units is in the attic.
Right. Uh-huh.
And it was a little bit complicated. So when I watched your podcast, Danny, I says, let me see if maybe these guys can kind of help me with this little dilemma that I have.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have encountered this many times, and I can offer a couple suggestions for you. The last time we did something like this, we actually used a piece of aluminum downspout, and we took an abrasive blade on a circular saw and basically cut the backside of the downspout out. It's not really hard to use an abrasive blade. Make sure you wear some really good safety glasses, and you're just basically cutting out the backside of it. That way it can fit over the piping, and then you can attach it just like you would a downspout. That works really, really well. You can also put, and this will require a little cutting and fabrication on the top part of it, an elbow that'll turn back into the house that'll allow you to caulk it to seal that up. So you can use either white or brown, but then you could actually take a little piece of your siding or take a really good picture of the siding, get paint mixed, just get you a quart of paint mix to match that color of your siding, and then you can paint it, and that's going to blend in pretty well because people see a downspout and they automatically think, well, of course it's used for guttering and downspout, so it fits fits in there. Another way that I've done it is to actually go to a sheet metal shop and have them just fabricate something that would just cover it, and you can attach that to the wall. But either way, you can work that very inexpensively, do the touch-up painting on it, and it'll look 100% better.
Awesome. Yeah, because it seems as though it was, when you wanted to, because I was even thinking about putting little rivets in it, opening up the aluminum downspout and then closing it back up again with the little rivets, going all the way down. And I figured that might be an alternative as well.
Yeah, Don, the aluminum downspout would certainly be the most affordable way, and it comes in 10-foot lengths, maybe even longer. But they do make a product specifically for this. You'd have to piece it together. I'm not sure how long they come. I think they come longer than 4 feet, but you have to piece it together. I think they're simply called line sets, and I'm not sure why they're called line sets. There's a company called Cover Guard that makes one. Ductless Air has one. It's called Hide-A-Line. And then Mitsubishi makes one too called Line Hide. And they're basically just they're rectangular plastic channels that are specifically made to hide this. So Cover Guard, Ductless Air, or Mitsubishi, check those out online, and you could probably order them at the local lumber yard or online, perhaps, I guess, at this point.
Awesome. That's great. Because, you're trying to do in the spring cleanup.
Right.
And Danny, you motivated me when I watched that show, because now my list has grown as a result of that. So I don't know whether to thank you or to say no thank you. I'm not sure yet.
well, it'll certainly make your house a better, increase the value, make it look good, and that way you can relax a little around the house once you get a few of those things knocked off the list.
That's true. I thank you so much.
All right, Don, thanks so much for being with us. If we can help you in the future, you know what to do. Give us a call.
You got it. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, John.
All righty. Thank you. Now, Don was able to reach out to us by calling 800-946-4420. If you'd like to send an email, you can send one at todayshomeowner.com/ask. That's what Mary from Green Bay, Wisconsin did. We got another deck question here, Joe. I have an old backyard deck that's pretty ugly, and I'd like to know how to make it a bit more attractive, perhaps adding a roof or something else to give it a little style. Can you help me out? Well, Mary, certainly there's a lot of recommendations on todayshomeowner.com on different things that you can do. Shade arbors. You can put an arbor over there, or pergola, as many people call it. Shade cloth, Joe, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
How inexpensive some of the triangular shape shade cloths are that you can attach to the fascia board or above, and then have a post coming out. It just kind of adds a festive feel to that. Plus, it gives you a little shade along the way.
Yeah, and planter boxes. Sometimes people like putting planter boxes around the perimeter of the deck, and then you put flowers in them, and that'll dress them up. But yeah, the sailcloths are great because you're just going to attach them to the house and then extend a pole like in each corner of the deck, let's say off the railing. And it could be almost anything. It could be just be a piece of aluminum conduit or a piece of wood, 2x2 or anything like that, because these sailcloths weigh almost nothing. And like, as Danny mentioned, they're typically triangular, so you might need 2 or 3 of them depending on the size of your deck, and you can kind of overlap them. And they are pretty cool looking. They come in lots of different colors, and they are really affordable. In winter, you can just unsnap them and roll them away, put them away for the winter.
Yeah, I really enjoy putting those things up because so many times it is pretty tricky. It can be done, but it can be expensive to really put the proper type roof extending out. Some people will put a little lean-to roof. The pitch on it will be too flat. They end up with all kinds of problems. Try to attaching something to the fascia board coming out. Your roof is too, it's just the ceiling area is just too low. So it can be done. You just really have to have that remodeling contractor that really knows what they're doing to do it the right way, because a lazy pitch roof like that rarely serves a good purpose. Time for our best new product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Today it seems like everything we own is powered by a rechargeable battery that uses some kind of USB charger. So swapping out an outlet above the kitchen counter for one that includes a USB charger sounds like a great idea for charging phones and other devices, right? Well, it certainly is in my kitchen. I have this very thing there, and it gets used every day. So if you want to check out the new Leviton 15 amp Decora Type A and C USB charger, tamper-resistant outlet. It includes 2 high-powered vertical USB ports, one Type A and one Type C, which deliver a combined total of 5.1 amps of charging current and 25 plus watts of power. Now, inside, the smart chip technology recognizes and optimizes the charging requirements for each individual device. The built-in overcurrent protection helps protect electronics from receiving too much power, which can damage the device. So you can use it for smartphones, tablets, laptops, monitors, printers, and a whole lot more. And it'll free up outlets and reduce the countertop clutter of charging adapters at the same time. I'm sure you can relate to that. So for more information on this Leviton USB charger tamper-resistant outlet, log on to HomeDepot.com. So that is something that certainly has saved us a lot of anguish in the. It's right on the end of our island, and we're able to do that. So that's definitely a good one. Our friends at Leviton. Right now, we're going to Bill in Virginia. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. Appreciate being on. Love listening to you guys Saturday mornings here in Lynchburg.
Oh, good. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. And, we tackle a lot of problems. And this one that you're challenged with is something that a lot of people have decks. They're raised up off the ground, and they'd love to use that space underneath. Tell us about your particular situation.
Yeah, so I have probably a 20 by 25 deck, and underneath is a paved patio that I would like to be able to use when it's raining, set the grill up underneath there or do my home brewing under there. Mm-hmm. Heard on your show in the past a recommendation to use the corrugated roofing. Mm-hmm. But I have a problem with wasps building nests under there, and so that would kind of create a little bit more of a challenge. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for something that I could put on top of the deck to create that dry space, but not wind up accelerating the rot of the wood on the deck.
Well, that would be one of the first concerns, is trapping that water in the wood. And even if it's treated or other weather-resistant wood, it could cause you a little problem there. By doing something underneath does allow, the deck to look the same, operate the same, but just divert that water. Joe, what do you think about a roofing material? I still am concerned about the aesthetics of doing something like that. I mean, roll roofing is one of the least expensive ways, but the modified bitumen-type roof that's sometimes torch applied is another way, but I'm just afraid it would still look like a roof.
Yeah, this is a bit of a challenge, Bill, and it would be relatively expensive. But they do, there are rooftop decks that are weather resistant, weatherproof. In your case, you'd have to put down plywood first, probably pressure treated plywood, and then they would come in and mop down some hot tar or something like that, or put on this. And then once they get the roof on, then you could put wood on top of that, and this way water would run off. And usually the joists, or they're really not joists, but they're more like sleepers, but the wood that would go perpendicular from the house would be tapered so that the deck was pitched a little bit, or so the deck would be level, but the underneath the new deck that they cover would be pitched, would be built up so water would run off of it. But I don't know if you have enough height to do that, first of all, because I assume this goes into a doorway, right? And you're adding so much height to it. You might, if you had 6 inches or so, you might be able to get away with it. If less than that, I'm not sure. That's why it's so much easier to capture the water once it runs through, and then channel it to the outside to a gutter and then to downspouts. So, can you do it? Yeah, but it would be pretty expensive and time consuming, and you'd have to have the height to add all of that, because when they cover that existing deck, it has to be pitched, right? But then when you put the new wood on top, it has to be level. So you have to concern yourself with all of that.
But Bill, one of the things that I would suggest you check out is a system from Trex that we installed on a deck recently, and it's pretty interesting. It's called Rain Escape, Trex Rain Escape, and it's a pretty innovative little system that you just staple under the under there, and it pretty much seals it all up to prevent any kind of insect or anything from getting in there, but then feeds it out to a gutter system. And it was surprisingly easy to install, and the homeowner did just what you're talking about, is was able to utilize that space directly under the deck, put some gravel on the floor there, on the ground, and it worked out very, very well. So that would be one other option to possibly do that I'm sure would be less expensive than trying to do a roofing material on top of the deck.
Yeah, and that was Trex Rain Escape?
Yes, Trex Rain Escape.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll have to look into that.
Sounds like a great project. Now, best of luck to you on that, and say hello to everybody in Lynchburg, and we really appreciate you listening to the show each week.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, our pleasure, Bill.
You have a good day.
All right, you as well. Thank you. Hey, I want to real quick remind you about the new subsection on todayshomeowner.com that's brought to you by the Metal Roofing Alliance. We've had a lot of traffic on this site because people are very interested in metal roofing, and you can find it at todayshomeowner.com/metal roofing. You'll find all kinds of great information and inspiration if you're considering a metal roof for your home. You know, metal roofs are so popular these days, and they're one of the best investments you can make to boost your home's value. So head over right now to todayshomeowner.com/metal roofing. And while you're there, look around at some of the different styles of metal roofing, because it's just not the sheets anymore. There's all types of other designs that are really unique and not that expensive, that you might find exactly the one that you want for your home. Let's go right to Illinois, and Chad's on with us. Chad, I got to say, I saw this picture of your fire table. What a great looking thing there. But
yeah, it's beautiful.
I hate that you had problems with it, because that is just so neat. You see a lot of fire tables that are just little inexpensive things that just don't quite look very realistic. But man, when I see that, I just see relaxation. But tell us about some of the challenges you're having with it.
Well, we call her a Game of Thrones table.
That's right. Good.
What I've got real quick, hey, by the way, I appreciate your guys' show. I learn something every day that I listen to it.
Oh, I appreciate
Beautiful.
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a covered patio. I've got built a Western red cedar base. I bored underneath the slab, ran natural gas and electricity to the base of the table. I got a granite top, and I had it cut out in the middle for a stainless steel fire pit, natural gas with the glass beads in the middle, glass shield all the way around, and I really like it. It's very enjoyable. The problem that we're running into is I think it's something called thermal shock, because the table at 50, 60 degrees outside, we turn on the heat from the fireplace, and we're getting cracks in the granite. I've already had to replace the granite twice.
Oh, wow.
Well, it probably is that exactly. Now, a lot of times in kitchen areas where you won't have that type of thermal shock, if you don't have a very good solid base, the least little bit of unlevelness can cause cracks to form in a natural material like granite. So that would be one thing you want to make sure of. Joe, I wonder if in putting the granite in, of course, Chad, I assume that you're getting this granite put in as a whole piece and just the center part cut out.
Yes, sir.
So you don't really have any way for that to expand and contract. I wonder if you might, even though nobody wants to see seams in the material, but you may need to put seams and possibly put this in 4 pieces and have those nice uniform cracks that you can caulk with a flexible caulk that can be the same color. I don't think it will take away from the overall good look of the fire table, but it gives that little bit of like an expansion joint in concrete. What do you think on that, Joe? Do you think that would be the best route?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess that might reduce the amount of cracking, but I'm looking at a photograph. Thanks for sending this photograph, Chad, because it'd be hard to kind of imagine what you've got there. This is a big piece of granite, and it overhangs quite a bit, so I'm not sure how those seams would work. Obviously, you can't go back to granite, since we know that does not work. If you want natural stone, although it looks completely different, soapstone would probably be the way to go, because it absorbs heat really well. They build fireplaces, wood-burning stoves out of it. Or I think you could probably use quartz, a quartz composite, which looks and feels as hard. It's as hard as stone. It's harder than stone. And because it's a manufactured product, you might not have that problem, but you'd have to check with the manufacturer. Are you familiar with with quartz composite, Chad. Most people use it obviously in kitchen counters, but that might be an option.
How about heating pads underneath like they use on the side of kitchens?
To keep it warm so it wouldn't...
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think obviously with a natural stone product, it's got natural beauty and also has natural defects, and every piece of stone is going to be different. It's got veins running through it, which can sometimes be weaknesses. You're cutting a hole out of the middle of it, which is not helping the structural integrity of this slab. And all that working with the heat and the cooling and expansion is probably stressing this stone out. So I'm not sure if heating pads would help enough.
One more question, if you have a minute.
Sure.
I have access to steel, industrial steel. My son-in-law works in the industry. What would happen if we removed that top and put a piece of 3/8 or half-inch steel on down first and put the granite on top? Do you think that would make any difference or hurt or hinder?
I'm not sure it would help. I mean, it would support it would support the stone certainly, but if the problem is cracking due not to proper support. Now, I'm assuming this is supported properly. You have quite a bit of overhang there, but the stone looks plenty thick enough to support it. The steel would support it, but I'm not sure if the heating and cooling is an issue. I'm not sure the slab of steel will help any. Sorry.
Gotcha. I understand. No, that's all right. I thought you guys had all the answers.
We do. Our answer is we have no idea.
We have no idea. It's a unique. I mean, it is a unique situation on that, and people think of granite being just invincible, but this is one of the vulnerable aspects of granite, and I hate that you're having to replace it again, but hopefully we've been able to give you a little bit to go on.
Absolutely. I'll look into the quartz and the soapstone and talk to some experts there and see what they have. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time because I know it's valuable.
Well, thank you very much, Chad. Thanks for being with us on the show, and if we can help you in the future, let us know.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Hey, I want to share with you something about some outdoor kitchens here, because more and more homeowners are adding outdoor kitchens because families want to create their own retreats centered around outdoor cooking. These projects are more involved than just parking a kettle grill and a picnic table on the patio, but they don't have to be ultra expensive to be functional and attractive. Many homeowners have discovered that they can mimic the look of a high-end outdoor kitchen by building cabinets around their existing grill to give it kind of that built-in feeling. If you're considering this kind of project, remember the materials adjacent to the grill have to be non-combustible, and the countertop materials have to withstand the weather. So concrete backer boards, stone, and ceramic tiles are a great choice to meet both of those criteria. Now, if you want to include a refrigerator in the space, be sure it's designed for outdoor use, and it may not stay as cool as you would like in hot weather or freeze up in cold weather. It should also be protected from rainfall and plugged into an outlet with a ground fault circuit interrupter. A heat source like a gas patio heater or fire pit is another great addition to the outdoor kitchen, because it will not only extend the number of days each year you can use the area, but it'll also create a great atmosphere when your family and friends gather there in the evenings. Now, these tips are brought to you by Exmark, the official mowers of the backyard life. For more information, check out exmark.com/backyard. We want to go to Gene right now in Iowa.
Yeah, I have an old sink. It's a cast iron sink with a white coating on it, and I like the style of the sink. I'd like to keep it, and I was wondering, can I recoat that white coating onto that sink to make that sink, refresh that sink and make it look more like new? That would be great.
All right, that sounds like a great little project, and it's always, when you have a good solid cast iron sink, if it's not, too damaged, it may be feasible to spend the time to refinish it. There's a lot of companies that have come out with different type of refinishing kits for bathtubs as well as sinks. Bathtubs are a pretty big project, I can tell you that. We've struggled with a couple of those in the past. Sink a little more manageable. Joe, we always love when people try to hold on to something that they have instead of just automatically throwing it away. What would you say to Gene here?
Yeah, especially when it's a vintage piece like this, because you can't replace it. Chances are finding the exact same style sink would be the chances are slim, I think. Well, he has a couple of options because it's a sink and not a tub. First of all, you can, although it's probably it's relatively heavy, you can remove a sink and bring it to a refinisher and have it done professionally. It's a little hard to do that with a tub. They'd have to come to your house. Mm-hmm. But, so that would be the first option. It would be the easiest because you they would even come and take the sink out. I mean, it'd probably be the most expensive option. But they do make any tub and tile refinishing kit would work on the sink as well. I don't know of one specifically designed for sinks, but the tub and tile refinishing kits will work. Rust-Oleum makes one. There's another company called Bathworks that makes one. And as Danny and I always say with any kind of project like this, the prep work is by far the most important step. So read the directions carefully. And when they say ventilate the space, they are not kidding. This is a pretty, toxic. There are very toxic fumes that come off of these products. So whether it's the primer or the cleaner or the actual finish itself. So, and when we say ventilate, we're not talking about just opening up a window. The best way to ventilate is open up 2 windows, one on the opposite side of the room, put a fan in one blowing out and another one in the other window blowing in. So you're really forcing that air because that's no joke. Those fumes are pretty noxious. So I would try a tub and tile refinishing kit. And if it doesn't work, then you can always take it to a professional, I guess.
Exactly. But do read those instructions carefully and don't shortcut anything. And also, having a respirator is not a bad idea. There's a lot of projects around the house that are great to have a respirator to keep from breathing in some of the whether it's dust or whether it's fumes. Either way, that's a good way to go. Well, best of luck on that, Gene. It sounds like a good little project that'll pay off really, really well. Hey, we want you to reach out to us anytime. An easy way of doing that is 800-946-4420, and we're going to take one of those calls right now.
My name is Jolene Fisher. I have a concrete porch. The person prior to me had a flower out there, fertilized it, water came over and changed the color of the concrete. I just wonder if there's something I can do for that.
Well, that's a tough one, Jolene, because once that water penetrates down into the pores of concrete, you probably can't get rid of it, but you can diminish it a little bit. One thing, Joe, I guess we could tell her just to buy a bigger pot and just cover the
There's a solution.
whole thing. But I think she wants a little bit more than that. What do you think on trying to minimize that discoloration?
Yeah, well, if you don't have a bigger pot, you can try straight hydrogen peroxide. Just get regular old hydrogen peroxide at any store, pharmacy, or drugstore, or a supermarket, and just pour it on there. You can't hurt the concrete, so just pour it on there. Let it soak in. It's very porous. Concrete's porous, which is why you have the stain in the first place. But if you want, you can cover it with a wet towel and then pour more hydrogen peroxide on top to keep it really wet, and let that set for, I don't know, depending on the stain, maybe an hour or more. And again, try to keep it wet with hydrogen peroxide, because if it dries out, it's not working. And then scrub it with some water, warm water, and a nylon bristle brush. Do not ever use a wire brush on concrete, because as hard as concrete is, it's really not a hard material. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that hard. If you scrub it with a wire brush, you're going to create a different surface texture in that part, and you'll never get it back to looking like the rest of it. So that's what I would use. Straight hydrogen peroxide. If that doesn't work, you can try oxygen bleach diluted in warm water. Or, of course, Danny, they make lots of different concrete cleaners. Simple Green makes one. There's one called 3 Seconds Outdoor Cleaner. You can try that as well. So, but I would think I'd start with the hydrogen peroxide.
There you go, Jolene. Hope that helps you out on that discolored concrete. I wonder how many people listening right now are singing that song, Jolene, because that's a extremely popular song by Dolly Parton and various others, but pretty well-known song there.
Spring makes all things new, and the Home Depot makes all spring things possible. Start a garden, refinish a deck. Use our mobile app to put over 2 million products in the palm of your hand. Some ready for pickup in as little as 2 hours. Oh, and if you don't have the tools you need, our tool rental department does. Download our mobile app to get started. Bring on spring with innovative help from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Now it's time for our podcast question of the week. Eva asked, wood flooring installed in 2014, we lived down in Sarasota, Florida. When the flooring was first installed, the moisture level was 1% to 2%. Now it's showing up at 6%. The company who installed it will remove the current wood at no charge, and they will install, just for the cost of the vinyl floor planking, we have to pay the labor to install. What do we do? Perhaps carpet would be a better solution. It's in a living room, dining room, L-shaped area. Well, even at 6%, Joe, I wouldn't think that there would be problems with it. Of course, it's wood floor and
probably on a concrete slab, I suspect.
Right, could be. And, there's several options there. Now, when they installed the wood floor, of course, they put down an adhesive, so you've got the adhesive to deal with that would have to be removed, which is not the end of the world, but I guess there's a lot of options here. You could take the wood floor up, and then you can seal the floor with a good masonry sealer to prevent any moisture from migrating up, and then go ahead and install whatever you want, of course, but any moisture that's migrating up through carpet is certainly not a good solution from that standpoint. So I think either way, just for safety's sake and to prevent from having to do this again, I think probably removing that glue, scraping that glue up, might even have a little bit of sanding to do there with a disc sander, like a floor sander, and then installing some masonry sealer. What do you think, Joe? You think that would be a good step in between here?
Yeah, depending on how much adhesive is down on that floor, you might be able to not even
That's right.
have to remove it. And I would, since they're going to install free of charge vinyl planking, she just has to pay for the flooring, which I thought is a pretty good deal. I would get waterproof vinyl planking. Now, you probably don't need waterproof in your living room and dining room, but I would get it anyway if you're going to do this. And if moisture is a problem, Life Proof is one manufacturer that makes a waterproof, not water resistant. This actually is waterproof vinyl planking, and they probably go right down over whatever is there. Once the wood floor is actually, if the wood floor is down there, you go over that. But the floor is going to come up. The old wood floor is going to come up, and I would go with a waterproof vinyl planking. Dan, you've installed a lot of vinyl planking, and whether it's waterproof or not, it goes down pretty quickly and easily. So I think the installers will be in and out of there in one day, probably.
Right, extremely durable too.
Yeah.
It can really last under a lot of abuse there. So that's a great idea. And Eva, thanks for sending in that podcast question of the week for us. If you'd like to send us a question, make it very easy. Just go to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Really appreciate all those great reviews, and please continue coming back and listening to the Today's Homeowner podcast. I'm Danny Lifford, along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thanks again for listening to us.